Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is your girl, Dutchie! And in today's video, I'm going to be acting as your mum, your dad, your caregiver, to answer more of your questions that you feel you can't ask them. So without further ado, let's get into questions you can't ask your mum, part 2. Question 1, how do I flirt with girls? There's so many different ways of flirting. You can compliment, buy them a drink if you're at a bar or something. If you're talking over text or message or Facebook or Snap, you can be like cheeky and like a bit like not necessarily suggestive, but like winky or smug facey. Just joking around with them, that sort of thing. Yeah. What does sex feel like? I feel awkward just typing this. Yeah, I feel like sex is a very taboo topic, especially when it comes to talking to your family about it. It shouldn't be at all, but I guess that it just is. I guess it feels different for everyone. Like for me, having sex with a girl feels different to me having sex with a guy. If you're talking about heterosexual sex, it's just like pleasurable. It just sort of feels like something going into you. I don't know really how to explain it. Intimate? I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but I can sort of go more in depth in like another video about like that sort of thing, I guess. But it just feels nice, it feels intimate. Yeah. What is your first time like? Again, very, very similar. Again, the first time is probably different for everyone, or everyone would have a different story about their first time. For me personally, it was with someone that I was dating at the time. We were both quite young, but we both wanted it, and it was a very like consensual act, which it always should be. And I won't lie, it was awkward, and I feel like your first time can be, even if you're in a committed, happy, like safe relationship, I think it can still be awkward, especially if you're both virgins. But that's not to say it was bad, because it wasn't bad in any sense. It's just new and exciting and something you've never done before. It's like riding a bike for the first time or doing anything for the first time. Obviously you're not going to nail it the first time, or you might not, but yeah, it just takes practice. It takes getting used to things with whoever you're having sex with. Does watching porn together make sex better? Not in my experience. I think it could make two people, and again, this is completely subjective. I think some couples or partners or whatever can watch porn together to turn each other on, or like to get ideas, I guess, but then again, porn sets such unrealistic expectations. Like, boy, I think for some people, maybe. I've watched it with partners in the past, and I've sort of been like, watched 5 minutes of it and I'm like, nah, that's enough. But yeah, I don't think it makes it better or any worse or anything. I think it's just some people like it, some people don't. What are some different ways to have sex and their positions? Again, this is super subjective to who is having sex. I guess I'll put some lesbian sex positions here, some gay sex positions here, and some male and female positions here. I guess they're just common ones. Is it normal if my period is brown? I'm not a medical professional, so I would probably go to a doctor to ask that. I think when you're starting off, from memory and from my experience, when you first get it, it can be darker because it's over a lot quicker. Usually I think darker brown blood means like it's coming sort of to the end of it. But if it's happening every period, and like even when you're heavy sort of thing, I would just go to your doctor or gynecologist and ask. Or ask your mum, or ask like another female in the family even to take you. Or why do they have sex if they can't have kids anymore? Interesting one. People have sex for intimacy, for pleasure, for happiness, for relationship. Not to keep a relationship alive, but it is an important part of a relationship. So just because they can't have children anymore doesn't mean they're going to stop. If you love someone and that sexual desire is still there, then people will do it. Sex isn't all about just doing it to have kids, like with the ultimate goal of having children. It's for pleasure, it's for relationships, it's fun. Is 14 old enough to know for sure if you're bi? Lots of people would answer differently to this. I don't know how your parents would react, but yeah, I don't think there is an age on knowing your sexuality. I hate it when people say you're too young to know you're gay, you're too young to know you're bi, you're too young to know you're trans. No, I'm not. And also, and would you say that to a straight kid? Oh, you're too young to know you're straight. I don't think so. Is bi-curious and LGBTQ plus sexuality? It's interesting you say that. It definitely comes under the spectrum. In my opinion, definitely comes under the spectrum. If you're bi-curious, you're more than straight. Like, even if you never date someone of the same gender or anything like you, doesn't mean that you're straight. Like, it doesn't change anything. You can be bi-curious. It's more than heterosexual, but not quite bi, it means you're curious, it means you're fluid. I think you definitely come into it. How do you know for sure that you're bisexual even though you've never been in a relationship? Again, I think that comes down to the individual. Obviously, if you're aware of who you're attracted to, who you would want to date or be with, crushes you've had, that sort of thing, like you can know for sure. I knew I was bi before dating a girl. What/how are some ways to come out to younger and older sibling? Oh, that's such a cute one. I guess you could just sort of sit them down and tell them. You could tell them you have a crush on a girl or guy, or a girl and a guy, or whatever gets the vibe across. You could be super obvious about it. You could just keep telling gay jokes, playing gay music, saying, oh my god, I love this band, I love this song, and have it be a super gay song. Or you could send them a TikTok, you could send them a link to a coming out video and say like, this is me too. Memes. Always memes. What should I do if people are bullying me for being lesbian? Illy, and love your videos. I love you so much and I am so appalled to hear that, and I can guarantee in a few years time whoever's bullying you for being a lesbian is going to be like, I've had it with guys, I'm gonna try girls. Okay, we all know that's a joke. But tell someone you trust, tell someone you need to vent about that. There's no point keeping it to yourself. It'll only make you feel worse and more upset. But yeah, I would recommend telling someone, even if it's a teacher. I suppose at the end of the day, kids are awful. Kids are just cruel. I think as long as, at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with yourself, confident within your sexuality and who you are as a person, I don't think you should let it affect you. I know that's a lot easier said than done. But as long as you surround yourself with positive, happy, trustworthy friends that have your back and fully support you, then that is a massive help. Massive, massive help. Why do you keep trying to completely control my life? I understand this. This is definitely a feeling I had growing up in my teen years and stuff. My parents weren't strict as such, but they weren't the most relaxed either. They were somewhere in the middle, which actually ended up being really good. And I think that worked, and I think I turned out to have a lot more respect for them in that way. Instead of letting me do and get away with everything, I think it's good to have some sort of structure. And because my parents didn't say yes all the time, I learned to deal with people saying no or things not going my way. In terms of controlling, I don't think that's what they're trying to do. I think it's more they're trying to protect you. Obviously, I don't know what from, I don't know the specific circumstance, but to me it just sounds like they're saying no a lot or not letting you do things, and I think that's more of a wanting to protect you, that sort of thing. So I'm sure it comes from a good place. Why don't you knock? Oath. I think this is definitely something you could say to them. Just be like, I would appreciate some privacy. If you could knock before you come in, that would be appreciated. It's not hard to say that. I know it might be depending on how your parents are and like the relationship you have with them, but it's always worth saying that. This is an interesting one. How do I know if I had a proper orgasm? It's just like a big sort of release. It's great. It's like a really big, nice kind of explosive feeling. You'll know, like everything might go tingly, or like, I mean everyone has a different experience with orgasms, but you'll know, sis. You'll know. What is so wrong about homosexual couples? Nothing, exactly. So why is there a stigma? If I had the answer to this, I would give it to, I guess it's just the way generations before us were brought up. It was wrong. It was a negative thing, and like people always speak about the Bible. I'm not religious in any sense, but I've done enough research to know that in the Bible there is nothing that says a man and a man or a woman and a woman can't fall in love. Like Jesus literally said to love everyone, like, or something like that. And I also have a handful of religious friends, and some of those are gay because they know what the Bible says, and it's not something that you can change about yourself either. It's not a choice. I know in the past men and women would marry someone of the opposite sex because that's what was right, and anything else was considered a sin. And I know that still happens to this day, and then they end up in divorce and end up with the person that they really wanted to be with in the beginning. So what were your actual thoughts when I came out? That's a really interesting question, and like, I guess a hard one to ask. Yeah. Good one. I obviously don't really have much to say, but I hope they were super supportive of you and love you regardless. What's a good age to start getting into relationships? Actual ones, not primary ones. Whenever it happens, I guess. My parents weren't as restrictive on this. Like I had boyfriends in primary school, but as you said, like they're primary school boyfriends. I started dating in year 7, which I mean, I don't know if you can even call it that, but I had a boyfriend in year 7, and year 9 and year 10. So, but I guess the most serious one where we started seeing each other and going to each other's houses and things like that was year 10. I don't think there's a right or wrong age. I think it's sort of whatever happens. I suppose every parent is going to have a different opinion on that, and different rules with that. So I can't really answer that, but yeah. How to wash down there? Well, the handy thing about being a female is it cleans itself. It's a self-cleaning machine. It's super important not to knock the pH balance down there or levels or anything, because then you can get troubles and issues and things with that. So try not to use any products that like are fragranced or anything. Definitely not like any body washes or anything, because that can really knock out your pH balance. You can talk to a gynecologist, or you can Google sort of, or talk to a doctor about things you can use down there. But most of the time just water and some sort of like unscented thing can help like externally, but in terms of internally it cleans itself. So I want to use a different name and pronouns. I think this is something super important, and I would hate for them to be using your dead name, or making you feel uncomfortable by using the wrong pronouns. It's a hard one, and it's something that people sometimes need time to adjust to, which is why it's so hard, because you don't want to be called pronouns that you don't want to be called, or your dead name. Like if you want to be called something else, you need to make that known. But yeah, a tricky one. Does top surgery hurt? Big fan. I honestly couldn't tell you that. I'm not friends with anyone that's had top surgery. Maybe Miles McKenna might have a answer to that. I'm not sure. I presume maybe the healing part might hurt a bit. I'm honestly not sure. Should I be worried if you have a strong emotional connection but less of a physical one? I don't think you should be worried. I think people go through all different stages of feeling that. If it's a persistent feeling, that's completely fine. There's plenty of people out there like that experience that. I guess it's just something that you'll need to experience and see what happens. How do you know if a girl likes you? Again, wish I knew the answer to this one, because girls can be super friendly without actually meaning anything else. Haha. I think the best thing to do is be straight up and like ask them, depending on the situation. Are they talking to you a lot? Do they want to hang out with you a lot? Do they get close to you? Do they joke with you? Do they flirt with you? Do they compliment you? Do they want to go on dates? Do they like all your photos? Do they comment? Do they swipe up on your snap or swipe up on your story? Those sorts of things. I guess at the end of the day, I can't tell you that. It's gonna come from them. Is it normal to masturbate for a girl? I just did a video on this, which I will link below. Yes, it's 100% normal for anyone to masturbate. It's not unnatural like society tries to make us think. Yes, girlfriend. Is sex painful? It shouldn't be if you're 100% prepared for it and comfortable with who you're doing it with, and you trust them and you're able to have that intimate moment. It shouldn't. Your first time can be a little bit uncomfortable. I wouldn't say it hurt me, but I have spoken to people that it has hurt. It can be, but again, if you take it slow, you're with the right person, you've lubed up, you've done everything you possibly can, and you are comfortable, then it shouldn't be too painful. There might be a little bit of pain or discomfort, but it shouldn't be unbearable. One day when I have sex, if I think I have an STD, what do I do? You just go to the doctor and get a standard STD test, and then they will get back to you and call you with the results. Is it normal to not feel an orgasm when I finger myself? Again, not a medical professional. I think that is normal. I don't think everyone can orgasm from that. I can't orgasm from that. So no, I think it is normal. Some people do, some people don't. What do I do if two people want to be with me? How do I choose? Oh my goodness. That's tough, especially if you like them both. I guess you just sort of have to maybe do some pros and cons for both of them. That sounds really strange, but I guess you just have to weigh up who you want to be with more, or who you feel like you are more compatible with. How do I figure out what I want to do with my future? Whew. Time, your interests, what you want to do. Maybe your hobbies might have something to do with where you want your future to go. It's something that I feel like a lot of people are forced to try and figure out during high school and like senior years, when a lot of the time you don't realize what you want to do till after that. I know heaps of people that went to uni or got into a degree and started studying, and then a year or 2 years later they were like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I guess it's just trial and error. I think a lot of people end up in a job that they don't want to be in and they're not completely happy with, and then they go back to uni and study what they do want to do, or they're stuck in it and just don't like their job. But it's just something that comes with time. Like, my career choice has changed 3 times since leaving school, so just time, and I guess like listening to your own desires and like where you want to go. How do you manage depression? I would be seeing a psychologist or a therapist. I think that's the best way and most professional way, or at least talking to someone who you trust. It doesn't always have to be a family member. It could be a friend's parent, a friend's family member, a friend, a teacher, someone that you can confide in. If you don't feel like you can talk to your parents, but just telling someone what's going on, or not even what's going on, just how you've been feeling, is super important, so someone else can help in any way, shape or form. Is it okay to not want sex or nudes? I feel broken sometimes. Oh no, please don't feel broken. It is completely normal to not want those 2 things. Who wants a dick pic? Like, seriously, I'm sorry, but not great. Any sort of nude, completely fine if you don't want to receive them or you don't want to send them. That is so normal, and nothing wrong with that. In terms of not wanting sex, I'm not sure how old you are, but that can come within time. It may never. You may be asexual, which again is completely fine. I guess time will tell, and you're not broken at all. How do I move on from a crush I've most likely fell in love with? It's been over 1.5 years. Time, girlfriend. It takes time, and I know that's so cliche and that's all you would hear, but it's honestly so true in my experience and other people's experience. I guess just trying to move on, trying to not think about them or like surround yourself with them. I guess it's hard if you still have them in your life. It can be really difficult. Hanging out with people that aren't them, as much as hard as that might be. Hobbies, writing it down, writing about it, like getting your feelings out of here and onto paper can really help as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, the only thing that can really help you move on is time. I think I might be non-binary. What should I do? I think that's something that is completely up to you. Who you tell is completely up to you. Maybe tell a friend first. And while I believe, and from what I've seen, being non-binary is becoming more and more public, like people that are non-binary are coming out as this much more frequently, unfortunately, it is still something that people, especially parents, struggle to get their head around. It's almost like on another level of sexuality. Gender identity is something, gender identity or non-conforming gender identity, I guess, is even harder. So this is a difficult one, but I seriously think that you should tell a friend or someone that will understand, confide in them, then they might be able to come over with you, or come over and help you tell your parents, because, and obviously I can't share feelings with you of being non-binary, but I can only imagine what it would feel like to be misgendered and all of this while you're feeling like you are non-binary. So yeah, I think try and tell someone. I think if even one person knows and speaks to you in the way you want to be spoken to and referred to, that can give you confidence and happiness in it. But obviously we do spend a lot of time with our family, and it's a hard one for them to get their head around, but it's just as important as anything. How old is the appropriate age to have sex? Again, super subjective. There is no right or wrong age. Obviously, both parties being legal is the correct age, I suppose, but it's when you feel comfortable, when you're with someone who you can trust and who you want that intimate connection with. And I suppose it is a big step, and it's probably not something to take lightly, but I can't tell you a right or wrong age. As long as it's legal. I think this one was more specific to me rather than parents, but does it hurt to get your nipple pierced? Yes, it does. I will not sugarcoat it. I have had many a piercing. I've had both of these, both my first and seconds done. I've also had my belly done. I've had tattoos. I've had a fair bit of pain in my time, and that was something else. If I knew it hurt that much, I wouldn't have got it done. But then again, I absolutely love it. Would I get the other one done now? Probably. I'll get over it. In saying this, it does hurt, but it is over and done with very quickly, especially if you go to the right place, do your research. Yes, it hurts, but then I got it done, and then my friend got it done a day later, and she didn't think it hurt much at all. So everyone's different, but from my experience, yes. Best sex toys to use with a partner. Oh my gosh. I don't have a lot of experience with partner stuff. I think a lot of sex toy websites though might have like a section for couples. I know Lovehoney does, but I think again that's totally up to the couple, what they're into and what they like. If you give someone a blowjob but no other sexual encounters, am I still a virgin? Again, losing your virginity is merely a social construct. I guess losing your virginity is what you make it. To me, I would say no. Like, to me, losing your virginity is penetration of some sort. Obviously not always man and a woman, it can be anyone. It is a form of sex, it is oral sex. I think some people would and some people wouldn't. It's just up to the individual. Is it normal for sexual stimulation to keep you up at night? I don't sort of know what you mean by that, whether you've done something and then you can't get to sleep after it, or you're just thinking about things. I think it's pretty normal for that to happen. But yeah, I don't really know what that means. I think it can be normal, but if it's an ongoing issue, maybe not. Can I have a binder? I've had a lot of those questions. Again, not something I can answer. I would hope they would say yes and support you, and it's not something you have to go and shop for on your own. But I would say yes. When do you know when you're ready to have sex? Lots of questions like this. Again, when you're comfortable, when you know you want to be intimate with a person that you are seeing or trust. You don't always have to be dating them, but when you'll know you're ready when you are ready, and you'll know when you're comfortable. But until then, don't wait until you're 100% comfortable and happy with the person that you are going to do it with. Make sure you have like your boundaries and like you talk, have an open conversation and everything about it. Is long distance dating a bad idea? I wouldn't say so. I think it's difficult, and I think it can be different to dating not long distance, but if it's meant to be, it will be. And yeah. Why do you always ask if I have a boyfriend and never ask if I have a girlfriend? You know I'm bi. Yes. There's that heterosexuality coming through. I feel you. What age should I start shaving down there? Completely up to you. I had this conversation with my mum. Like, she bought me my first razor for my legs in high school, like year 7 or year 8. I think it was quite late compared to a lot of my other friends. I think I talked to her about that and was sort of like, oh, or actually maybe I just did it and then I told her and she was like, oh, okay, like be careful. I think a general rule with shaving is don't start too early, because once you start, you can't stop. Once you start shaving, it comes back thicker, coarser, darker. Like, so hold off until you can, but obviously whenever you feel like you want to, then I would have that conversation. Do relationships get easier when you grow up? Yes and no. When you're in high school, you don't really have any life pressures. You might have another girl or another guy crushing on your partner or boyfriend or girlfriend, but you don't have financial pressures. You don't have work pressures or anything like that. So I think a lot of the problems we face when we're dating someone when we're younger, like in our teen years, or a little bit older but not quite in like the real world yet, is very like superficial. And not to say that they're not real issues or whatever, like they are, but I guess dating gets easier when you're older because you're more free to do what you want. You're free to see each other, and ease of access to, you have the means to go and see them. You don't have to rely on someone else. So it's easier in terms of that. It can be harder in terms of life stresses and things, but yeah, I guess it gets easier. So that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. Again, if you guys would like me to do a part 3, I 100% will. Just let me know, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!